Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah posted one photo at the Browns facility and nearly broke the internet. The prediction pen woke up on the right side of the bed today and delivered on some big draft questions. And Mark finally figured out why some people are not sold on Carnell Tate as a wide receiver one, and it comes down to one thing called the Jeremiah Smith effect. Let's get into it. First, JK. One photo. That is all it took. Owusu-Koramoah posted a picture of himself at the facility, and Browns Nation immediately went into a frenzy, wondering if he is coming back. The honest answer is there is no confirmation of that. Andrew Barry said he was not overly optimistic that JK could play again after the neck injury he suffered trying to make a tackle on Derrick Henry. But JK has stayed connected. He shows up for voluntary activities. He watches practice from a sideline. He has quietly taken on a mentorship role while he recovers and figures out his future. That matters. It says something about his character and his connection to this organization that he is still present even without a roster spot. Whether he plays again or not, seeing him at the facility is a good thing. But for anyone hoping that Instagram post meant he is suiting up in 2026, not yet. No confirmation. Just JK being JK, and reminding you that the man has enough power to break the internet with a single image. Now Carnell Tate. Mark has been on this player for months and is not changing. But he has been paying attention to the pushback, and he thinks he has figured out the source of the skepticism. Is what analysts are calling the Jeremiah Smith effect. Because Ohio State has Jeremiah Smith, who is essentially a generational receiver, the kind of player who draws every team's best cornerback, the softest coverage, and the most defensive attention on every single play. Carnell Tate has been operating in lighter coverage all season. He does not always see the number one corner. He gets more off coverage. Defenses are so focused on Smith that Tate has had a cushier statistical environment than he would get as the clear number one option elsewhere. And some analysts look at that and say, well, he has not been truly tested, so how do we know what he is? Here is the answer. Tim Bielik from Cleveland.com nailed it when he specifically pointed to the Cotton Bowl against Texas. Texas made a decision. They were going to focus on Jeremiah Smith and dare everyone else to beat them. Carnell Tate beat them. Over and over. He kept making play after play against a Texas defense that was not giving him anything for free. That is a prospect showing you what he can do when the defense respects him as a threat and adjusts accordingly. That is not a guy riding another player's coattails. That is a 1A receiver doing 1A things when it counts. And then there is the bigger context. Tate is coming out as a 21-year-old junior, which means he has the highest developmental ceiling of any junior receiver in this draft. The analysts are unanimous that his game translates to the NFL without major developmental hurdles. Every Ohio State receiver from the Heartline era, Garrett Wilson, Jackson Smith-Njigba, Marvin Harrison Jr., Chris Olave, the entire pipeline, walked into the NFL and contributed significantly right away. You do not see developmental growing pains from these players. They come out ready. You want to know why? Because Brian Hartline knew exactly how to get wide receivers prepared for the professional game, and Tate was developed in that system through his junior year. The Jeremiah Smith effect is not a warning. It is a context note. Do not let it shake your confidence in what Carnell Tate is. If he is at 6 when the Browns are on the clock, you take him. Now the prediction pen. In a great mood today, which is always a good sign. First question, is Carnell Tate a bona fide wide receiver one in the NFL? Without a doubt. Second, will the Browns take 2 wide receivers in the first round? Not for $1 million, which means wide receiver at 6, tackle at 24. That is the prediction pen's read, and that is Mark's read too. Third, will the Browns trade for Marvin Harrison Jr.? No way. The prediction pen shut that dream down hard. Mark does not fully agree. He thinks this situation stays fluid depending on what Arizona does with their quarterback situation after the draft, but as of today, slim to none. If the rule change allowing teams to trade picks 5 years out gets implemented, that is the kind of creative deal that could make a Harrison Jr. trade work down the road. The stars are not aligned right now, but do not close the door completely. Fourth question, will the Browns draft at least 3 offensive linemen with their first 5 picks? Not for $1 million. So the prediction pen sees the first 5 picks as 2 wide receivers, 2 linemen, and 1 defensive playmaker. Mark can live with that. And then the big one that everyone has been fighting about online. After the Browns reworked his contract, will Myles Garrett be traded? Not for $1 million. Even the prediction pen knows. Myles Garrett is the face of this defense until Shedeur fully becomes the face of this franchise. You do not trade the foundation your entire defensive identity is built on. You do not trade the player every coach, free agent, and coordinator came here because of. You do not trade Myles Garrett. Full stop. That's not even in my vocabulary. Winning mentality from winning cultures. Compare that to Stefanski's introductory press conference in Atlanta, where he said he does not believe you can be good at everything. That is the coach they just hired in Atlanta essentially telling his new fan base on day one that he is fine with being mediocre at some things. Championship-caliber head coaches do not say that. They stand up and tell you they are going to be excellent in all three phases. They do not get up there and pre-negotiate with mediocrity. The players who have come through Monken's building this offseason have said the same things in different ways. Quinton Judkins talked about how Monken communicated his vision clearly and immediately, how he knew exactly what he wanted from the team, and how each player fits. Titus Howard talked about Shedeur with genuine excitement and enthusiasm, present tense, forward-looking, while his comments about Deshaun Watson were warm, but entirely past tense. The organizational signals, the social media presence, the mural inside the facility, the coaching staff that stayed together from Baltimore rather than scattering, all of it points in the same direction. This is a team with alignment, with clarity, and with a head coach who players want to play for. Jarvis Landry gave Cleveland fans permission to say out loud what they already knew. The firing was correct. The hire was right. The chapter is closed. And when the Falcons come to Cleveland and Stefanski is on the opposite sideline trying to manage a Tua Tagovailoa offense with his game management philosophy, that game is going to be must-see television. Shedeur Sanders versus Kevin Stefanski's defense. Put on a billboard. That is going to be box office. On a scale of 1 to 100, where is the optimism for Todd Monken in Cleveland? For anyone paying attention, the answer should be somewhere in the 90s. Everything is pointing in the right direction. Go Browns. To more rather than scattering, all of it points in the same direction. This is a team with alignment, with clarity, and with a head coach who players want to play for. Jarvis Landry gave Cleveland fans permission to say out loud what they already knew. The firing was correct. The hire was right. The chapter is closed. And when the Falcons come to Cleveland and Stefanski is on the opposite sideline trying to manage a Tua Tagovailoa offense with his game management philosophy, that game is going to be must-see television. Shedeur Sanders versus Kevin Stefanski's defense. Put on a billboard. That is going to be box office. On a scale of 1 to 100, where is the optimism for Todd Monken in Cleveland? For anyone paying attention, the answer should be somewhere in the 90s. Everything is pointing in the right direction. Go Browns.